Hello, and welcome to Navigating Cancer Together. It is the show that has something for everyone facing cancer. Why? Because everyone is different with different needs, beliefs, and perspectives. Thank you for joining us for this very special episode. I encourage you to open your minds and your hearts. June, a month that holds a deep significance in the cancer community. It is National Cancer Survivor Month, a time when we pause to honor not just the challenges faced, but the lives lived, the strength discovered, and the incredible ongoing reality of those who have navigated cancer and are living and thriving beyond it. But what does survivorship really mean? Beyond the medical definitions, beyond the infusion and treatment rooms, what is at the very heart of living as a survivor? Is it a destination, a state of being, a continuous path? For me, and I know for many others, the word survivorship carries so many layers. It can feel like a label, sometimes heavy, sometimes traumatic, sometimes hopeful, sometimes inspiring. It's a path unique to each person, yet shared by a vast community, and I wanted to explore that path in its raw, authentic beauty by hearing directly from fellow travelers. Although I am a survivor, I call myself a thriver because I'm not simply surviving any longer. I am living life on my own terms from a place of peace, power, and intentionality. This personal perspective has shaped my understanding of what it means to live beyond a cancer diagnosis. So for this very special episode, made in honor of National Cancer Survivor Month, I've gathered 8 incredible voices, 8 cancer survivors, including myself, 5 tenacious women, and yes, I am one of them, sharing my experiences alongside others. We also have 3 persevering men from different backgrounds, different diagnoses, different years out from treatment. They are opening their hearts and sharing the word or words they would use to define their experience and what survivorship means personally to them. It takes tremendous courage and vulnerability to revisit those moments, to articulate the feelings that come with living beyond cancer, including the triumphs and the lingering shadows. And they have shared their truth with such grace. This episode is a tapestry of fortitude, woven with threads of pain, hope, gratitude, growth, and wisdom. It's about the messy, beautiful, ongoing reality of survivorship. If you are a survivor, if you love a survivor, if you are currently navigating treatment, or if you simply want to understand the heart of this journey, I invite you to listen to this episode with an open heart. Welcome to National Cancer Survivor Month. What's at the heart of survivorship? My name is Talaya Dendy. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a blood cancer, in 2011. It is a type of cancer that affects the lymphatic system, particularly the lymph nodes. I am a 14-year cancer thriver as of April 8th of this year. A challenge I faced in survivorship was feeling unstable after the treatment was complete. Physically and health-wise, it took me a couple of years to feel better after the chemotherapy and radiation. I was not sure what the next steps should be in my life. I was more concerned with reflecting on what I had just gone through and what it all meant. I was focused on 360 healing. When I was ready physically, I wanted to be ready mentally and emotionally. I wanted to make sure I had my head in the game when the time arose for my next move. Thinking about what was next or thinking too far ahead felt overwhelming at times, but reaching the 5-year mark without recurrence was my goal. I was different in some ways. I moved differently. I no longer fit into my old way of life. I had to figure it out, and it took me several years to figure it out. I left the job I was working at when I was diagnosed, and I actually changed jobs a couple times since then. The work and the culture of the industry I was working in were no longer tolerable. After looking around and seeing no one who looked like me or who could relate to what I was going through while undergoing cancer treatment, I did not have much energy left to continue with the isolation I often felt in the corporate arena. Each industry has a certain culture, and I no longer wanted to tolerate the good old boys club mentality. I was so tired of having to prove my worth. I overcame these challenges by giving myself grace and coming to terms with what I had just experienced. I did not have to bounce right back. I gave myself time to explore and test the waters. People often feel comfortable opening up and confiding in me, and I always had the desire to help others, especially the quote unquote underdogs. Not to mention, I'm blessed to still be here, so I knew I had something more inside of me that was supposed to help others. Over time, I did the work to figure it out. I stumbled, grappled with confidence, and ultimately rebuilt myself. One of the things that helped me was renouncing or rejecting the negative things that had been spoken over me and to me as a child and throughout my life. A therapist helped me realize that those words and the limiting beliefs had nothing to do with me, that they were a reflection of self-hate others had for themselves. And it was not my job to pamper others' egos and cater to their insecurities. Essentially, I overcame the feeling of instability and uncertainty by reclaiming my life. I am meant to soar. An unexpected blessing that I have experienced since I was diagnosed with cancer was becoming in alignment with my purpose and building my confidence. I am not waiting for permission to do anything that I want to do. I'm not waiting for others to get on board and believe in me or support me. Now, it's always a blessing if people do, but it's not a deal breaker for my goals if they don't. If I wake up tomorrow and decide I want to learn how to fly a plane, I'm going to figure out what steps I need to take to make that goal a reality. While I am taking those steps, I will meet like-minded people along the way who share the same interests and goals. I know this to be true because it is actively happening in my life right now. Do you know how many people told me that I could not do the work that I am doing as a cancer doula when I initially started? Have there been bumps in the road? Yes. It is not easy, but I believe in myself and my capabilities. That is confidence. I also acknowledge the limitations I have and that I can't do everything alone. I don't even want to. There are people out there who have skill sets that I don't have. And it's about finding that balance of confidence and humility. Finding my way and carving out my own path are the unexpected blessings of survivorship. To me, survivorship means thriving, thinking big, and going for it, getting up every day and giving it all I've got. I'm not talking about just work and the day-to-day things. I'm talking about taking care of myself and honoring myself. I am talking about truly living and getting in tune with what really lights me up and brings me joy. Freeing myself from anything that attempts to clip my wings and weigh me down. I am in harmony with my body now, and we have a great relationship and level of communication. I slow down, I tap in, I listen to it. It lets me know on many levels when something is not right and if I need to make adjustments or release something altogether. Life and time are gifts that deserve the ultimate respect. So it is important for me to allocate more time for the people I love and who love me. Survivorship means saying no without guilt. Survivorship means taking care of all of me so I can care for others. It means continuing to grow, to learn, being open to love, prosperity, and success so I can share those things with others. Survivorship means no longer being in survival mode. Things are flowing. Dynamic and discovery are the words that I would use to describe my experience of surviving cancer. I say dynamic because things are always changing, and change can spark discovery. Although hard at times, embracing change ushered in new experiences, perspectives, mindsets, and a new vision for what is possible for my future and my life. I was stuck in performing the societal expectations and people-pleasing. We all have our own challenges and struggles outside of a cancer diagnosis. The diagnosis just amplifies them. Cancer is something I would never wish on anyone, and is something that I pray I never have to face again. But it did help me to find and use my voice for good. I may not have stepped out of my comfort zone to share my story, help, guide, and advocate for others, start a business, speak, take more risks, or even start this podcast. I chose to change. And in the process, I discovered who I really am and why I am here. This experience has also helped me discover and meet a number of people whom I would not have met otherwise. Up to this point of my journey, some have become great friends and partners. Some have been great lessons and reminders to recalibrate. I can be kind and stand on business. I can be kind and let people know what is not acceptable. I can be kind and have boundaries. My quality of life after cancer is just as important, if not more, than my quality of life before and during cancer. It's the outcome of a dynamic discovery.
My name is Grisel Scarantino. I'm an appendix cancer survivor, and this June will be 6 years from my diagnosis. One of the biggest challenges that I faced in survivorship was figuring out how to live fully without letting fear run the show. After cancer, your perspective shifts. Even after the treatments ended, I struggled with feeling safe in my own body. I still fear that it will return. And there's so much uncertainty with it all, especially since appendix cancer is a rare cancer and there's still so much more to learn about it. And there's this pressure to just let go of that fear and get back to normal. But nothing about you is the same. And deep down, I didn't want to go back to my old normal. Anyway, what helped me was allowing myself to rebuild intentionally. I gave myself permission to create a new version of success for my life, for my career, a version that prioritizes joy and spaciousness and meaning. I invested in healing, not just physically, but emotionally. I made space for rest, and I made big pivots in my life that aligns with who I've become. One of the unexpected blessings since I was diagnosed with cancer was clarity. Cancer stripped away all of the noise, and it forced me to get painfully honest about what actually matters in life. I used to chase goals that looked great on paper, titles, timelines, money, but after my diagnosis, all of that was hollow. And what rose up to the top was time, health, peace, joy, and connection. And I started asking myself, what kind of life do I want to wake up to every day? And more importantly, what am I no longer willing to tolerate? And that clarity has become like a compass for me. It's why I made big changes in my career. It's how I show up to the world now. I stopped waiting for permission. I started living in alignment. And while I wouldn't wish cancer on anyone, I am deeply grateful for the perspective that it gave me because I don't take my time here for granted anymore. To me, survivorship isn't just about being alive. It's about choosing to live out loud. It's about showing up for the life that I've been given. Even if it's messy or uncertain. And I'm an entrepreneur now, so believe me when I tell you that entrepreneurship is the road less traveled, and there's a lot of uncertainty there. But that's what's important to me. So, survivorship means so survivorship means honoring the version of me that fought to stay here. by living with intention now, not just going through the motions. Now more than ever, I embody the fact that this life is mine to create, and it doesn't have to look like everyone else's. Every day is a chance to align a little more with what matters most to me. Because when my day comes, I do not want to be lying on my deathbed thinking about all of the things that I've left undone. Because when I was diagnosed, my mind was flooded with those thoughts because I thought I had reached the end of my line and that was it. And all I could think about is what I haven't done yet. So when that next time comes, when I'm really at my end, I do not want to have those thoughts and I won't. So survivorship for me is living intentionally and making the most of this one life that I get to live. If I could choose one word to describe my experience of surviving cancer, it would be awakening. Cancer cracked me open. It it woke me up to how precious and fragile life is and also how powerful I am when I stop living on autopilot. It awakened parts of me that I had been either too busy or too afraid to fully listen to before. I became more present, more honest, more aligned. It's the kind of awakening that changes your soul. And from that awakening came the clarity, the courage, and the capacity to intentionally redesign my life so that it actually fits who I am now.
Hi, this is Russ Hedge.
What type of cancer were you diagnosed with?
Melanoma.
How many years are you into survivorship?
Going on 3 years. The biggest challenge, I think, is the side effects from cancer treatment. I've had quite a few challenges in that area, from becoming a type 1 diabetic to having hearing problems and other issues. And so overcoming those challenges, also adrenal insufficiency, which is basically failure of your adrenal glands, those things have caused me to have to jump through a bunch of hoops, take medication, and do things that were challenging. But with God's help, I found a way. The biggest blessing through this whole thing is the opportunity to inspire and encourage others that are going through challenges in life. I've been able to reach out through social media and through other avenues, do interviews like this, and be able to encourage and inspire others to hang in there, that they can make it. With God's help, they'll find a way and life will continue. Personally, survivorship is just the gratitude and the thankfulness for life, just the opportunity to live every day and just be able to get out there and be with my family and friends. The one word that I would use is endurance, because it's a journey. You have to endure and you have to get through the rough times to get to the better sides. You know, I'm a true believer that God works all things for the good, and there's a good side on the other side of what you're going through. So endurance would be my word. Get together with others and lean on others that have gone through cancer or challenges like this in life, health challenges. They can make your journey a lot easier because they've already been through what you're going through. So when you're able to lean on your community and connect with others that are going through cancer, that will help you more than you can realize.
Hello, my name is Mary Wells, and I am a proud and grateful 11-year breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with stage 2 plus breast cancer. I would like to share with you one of the challenges that I have overcome that I am grateful for, and that is the challenge of having what they call chemo brain. And when I had chemo brain, I could not remember or even form sentences. But I'm so grateful to be in a support group that helped me at that time, take their time with me and work with me so that I could stop, remember, and slow down. And as time went on, I've been able to really be at almost 95% capacity. There are times that that happens, but that was the biggest challenge. And it just takes time. I had to learn to give myself grace that what I had undergone, something very major, and to also share that with others who are going through the same thing that came after me. The unexpected blessing is that I understand what my purpose is. Before, I was just kind of out there, just doing work that I was proud to do for others. But through this journey and through thriving and this victory through the journey of cancer, I learned what I'm supposed to do. It's why I'm here, and that is to encourage others. Survivorship means to me personally that you come alongside others to help them with what you've been through. You don't know how much your testimony means until you're willing to share it. And at first, I wasn't willing to share it. I was ashamed, but once I understood that this was my purpose when I was created to do that, it was because of what happened is really for someone else to help them to become better. That's what I'm grateful for. The word that I will say that resonates with me as a cancer thriver, that's what I'll say, is this one word, and it is victory. There are so many things that you go through during that journey, and the journey does not stop. But what you have to remember is through the journey is who you are. You have already won the victory. You are living. You are a living testimony. And I am grateful to be a living testimony to share that journey with others. No matter what it is that you go through, you win. You are here and you can help others become better by sharing that testimony.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Reaoch. I live in Brazil and I'm a male breast cancer survivor. I actually started this survivorship journey back in October of 2010 when I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma. So in October 2010, had a mastectomy on my left side, went through chemotherapy that started in November 2010 up to 2011, and then 5 years of something called tamoxifen, which you may all be familiar with. So I think my survivorship sort of started in the middle of all that, because when we're in the middle, we're not sure where anything starts, because we generally think that's the end of something. But I got through all of that, and we're now in 2025. I'm still here, but I've just recently been re-diagnosed with what is called a late recurrence of the breast carcinoma, Rh+. So my survivorship is ongoing. All right, and we're still here. What's the challenge? What is one of the challenges that I've had over these 15 years? Biggest challenge was professional. As a consultant, sort of my business came to a stop during all of the treatments years ago, repositioning, because 15 years ago, the thought was when you had cancer, basically you were dying. And most people sort of treated you as if you were. I even thought I was, but I wasn't. But that was it. So repositioning myself as a professional was a challenge. But through those challenges, we got a whole bunch of blessings. One of the blessings that I did have and still do have is learning how to speak better to women. So I really consider that I have a better understanding. I don't want to say I understand women, but I do have a better understanding of women and what their challenges are, whether they're healthy or not. One of the things I did do after and during my survivorship was reigniting my speaking profession. So I became a speaker, would talk to many women, many female groups, and talk to them about networking. So it was through that and a really closer connection to women that I certainly learned a whole lot more about women. Maybe they did learn something about networking, but I learned a little bit about their own thought process and mindset, which is different. I think good or bad or indifferent, it is. But that brings me to, what does survivorship mean to me? First of all, it's only over when it's over, and it's never over, all right? As I've just learned, because I'm just been re-diagnosed, we can think that it's over, but it isn't. We shouldn't treat it ever as being over. We have to go through the health protocols. In my case was having annual checkups every 6 months, but if you have or know someone who has cancer, encourage them to keep up and having checkups, because it's not uncommon to have a recurrence. What was the other plus side? I've also had, during this time, other medical issues. So more than a year ago, I had a heart valve implant. So my survivorship actually prepared me for that. And that helped me through that episode, which is completely different from cancer, but it's a hospital setting. You're in a different situation. You're in the unknown again. But it did prepare me for that. And again, it's prepared me for where I am today, starting all over. With this recurrence, I'm starting a new battery of medications, which are different, more modern. All right. So I'm relearning that what I have is a recurrence of what I had, which is a positive. But I also learned that the treatments are different. They're more modern, less invasive. So that's the plus side. When we do all of that, what do we consider going back? What is a word that I can use to describe my experience? I think the one simple word that comes out is rebirth. And what is that rebirth? We get a chance to start all over again. And I had that chance years ago to clear the slate, to look at myself, look at what my life had been up to that point, and get another piece of chalk and start all over. And that was actually an orientation from my doctor at that time. And what he said 15 years ago was, just do what you like. From today on, don't do anything you don't like. And second, and more importantly, he said, I can remove the cancer, which he did, but the cure is in your head. And I've repeated that over the years because many times we think it's the medicines, the medication, it's the treatment that's going to make me better. It helps. But what can and will make us better, make us feel better, it's in our mind. So it's not just taking the medicine. It's taking a different view of what we think about everything in life. So that's what I consider as a rebirth. It was an occasion for me to restart, to reboot. It's like a computer that's hung up. Yes, when the thing's not working, what do they tell you to do? Reboot. So I did have that chance to reboot, and that's brought me to where I am today. And I have to say that I feel actually more invigorated than I did years ago. Stress and professional activities and everything else, I learned to place different values on those things that we call life. So that's where I am today. Where will I be tomorrow? Hopefully here. And I hope to be back here 15 years from now and talk about what can bring me to 2050, hopefully. So that's where we are. I want to thank you for taking a listen, and the best to everybody out there listening to us.
Hi, I am Annamaria Scaccia. I am a double cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with stage 1 chromophobe renal cell carcinoma in fall of 2020. And then I was diagnosed with stage 1 papillary thyroid carcinoma in the spring of 2023. So it's hard to say how many years I've been in survivorship when you're a double cancer survivor. I guess you can say 5 years in total, I suppose, from the first diagnosis. But when you're a double cancer survivor, it just feels like survivorship restarts itself because, you know, you're on this path of, hey, everything is clear, everything's great. And then you're hit with something else. How many years I've been into survivorship is a question I actually play in my head all the time, because of the fact that it felt like it restarted. So it's like, how can you tell someone, yes, I am kidney cancer free, and that's great. But I just recently became, I wouldn't say thyroid cancer free, but no evidence of a disease for thyroid cancer. And so I still feel like my survivorship is very young. The one challenging aspect I've faced in survivorship is explaining to people that survivorship is the hardest part of cancer. As someone whose only treatments, well, I wouldn't say only treatments, my 2 major treatments were surgery. The type of kidney cancer I had does not respond well to the current therapies that are out there. It does not respond well to immunotherapy. It does not respond at all to chemotherapy. There are some targeted therapies. So for stage 1, really, all you have is surgery. You don't necessarily have the option to say, I want to save my kidney. Let's do this. So I had my entire left kidney removed. And a lot of people just treat it as, you're fine. You have a kidney removed. You went to bodybuilding. You look great. You're fine. But they don't see the daily struggle with nutrition. They don't see the daily struggle with fear and anxiety over my kidney health. You know, the turning back and looking at my urine to make sure it's not foamy, the concerns about my labs, a lot of the misinformation around what you're allowed to eat and allowed to not do, and all the knowledge I've had to gather myself in order to live my life. With the thyroid cancer, people don't see the daily struggle with energy. Your thyroid controls your metabolism and it controls your energy. And when you don't have it and you have to be on Synthroid or some generic for the rest of your life just to be able to produce them, just to be able to keep your body functioning. And at the same time, at a dosage that is trying to suppress your cancer cells from growing, you battle energy and you battle energy loss, and all those things that you've used to do before become things that you just struggle to even think about doing. For myself, I'm still on a high dose of Synthroid because while I am no evidence of disease, I did have some metastasis in my lymph nodes, and my thyroid had what's called a BRAF mutation, that's BRAF positive mutation, which is less likely to respond to radioactive iodine. I had radioactive iodine the week of my 41st birthday last year. And as far as we can tell from my labs, it should have worked. However, we don't know for sure until I do another whole body scan. So we're still in the state of suppressing my thyroid cells, which means I'm in a hyperthyroid state. And this is all to say, part of that too, with where my thyroid and kidney health cross, my body had not been able to convert the T4 hormone into T3. And so despite me being in a hyperthyroid state, my T3 was still very low, which would explain a lot of my lack of energy. These are the things that I have to think about in survivorship. I did not have to think about this during treatment. I did not have to think about this before cancer, but now in survivorship, I have to take 2 medications at 6 o'clock in the morning Central Time in order for me to make sure that I'm functioning during the day, but I have to wait an hour and a half before I can eat anything, which is fine because I take my son to school and then I come home and I do my thing and I go to the gym and then I eat. But even still, not every day is like that. And so I have to interrupt my sleep in order to take this pill that keeps my body functioning. And then I have to watch what I eat. And then I have to watch my health itself. And then I have to deal with all this energy. And I have to force myself to have energy on top of everything else. The hardest part of survivorship is survivorship itself. How did I overcome it is a tough one to answer because I'm not sure I necessarily have overcome it as much as I'm living it day to day. Because that's really kind of all you can do is get used to your new day to day. I don't want to call it a new normal because normal changes all the time for people. And I feel like it's just kind of an outdated phrasing, but you just kind of have to deal with it. It becomes a part of your life. I think ways that I try to deal with it is to be more conscious of my nutrition. I meal prep every week to make sure I'm eating well. I'm very on top of my health now. So if there's one little thing that I feel that is wrong with my body, I will go to the doctor. I will get those tests. I will do my due diligence. I think just being more vocal about my needs with my family and letting them know the things that I need to make sure I can live a healthy day. I've abandoned the all or nothing mindset. I think especially when you're an overachiever, you're incredibly ambitious, which I am. I want everything to be perfect. And they're all things I'm working out in therapy. You kind of develop this all or nothing mindset. And I think I had to abandon that in order for me to overcome all of these changes. So now I might not go 100%, but I can do 80 and that is okay. And I've learned to be okay with my 80 or my 50 or my 60. And that requires a lot of honesty with yourself and a lot of grace, which was not something before cancer. I gave a lot myself up and probably maybe not so much now, but a lot more than I did. I would say that is the unexpected blessing. And I'll be honest, I wish I never had cancer. I'm not going to be like, hey, it's a blessing in disguise or everything happens for a reason. No, if we could all not have cancer, that would be the preferred, way of life. But I would say unexpected blessing is that I allowed myself to fully live my purpose and to give myself grace. I've always been a person who's been driven by my values, and I've always been a person who's been driven by my purpose. But when you're trying to live life, and especially when you're starting a family and you have bills, you do whatever you can to make sure you're secure, especially if you've had any type of job insecurity or financial insecurity, or housing insecurity. You make sure you do what you need to do to put yourself in the secure space. And so when I was working as a freelance journalist, I was working 68 hours a week. When I switched over to corporate, I was still working 68 hours a week. And it was all because I need to make sure I keep this job, I do well, I don't put myself in a position where I could get laid off and all that. And then after cancer, I realized that I can potentially always find a job. I will always only have one son. I will always only have one life. And I will always have, well, I can't say I will always have one mission, but what I believe in is just more important to me than whether or not I'm still at the job I'm at, because I could always find something that is closer to who I am and what I want and the impact I want to leave in the world. So I would say that would be the unexpected blessing. And I know a lot of people say the similar, that you lean into your purpose a lot more. And it allowed me to shed all of that nonsense about, the material things, like how much money you have in your bank account, what kind of clothes you're wearing, what kind of house you have, what kind of car you're driving, whether or not you won this or you won that, or you're first or you're this or you're that, and focus more on what matters to me and what I know is going to matter to the people around me, and making sure that I live what I've always wanted to live, which was to be able to make a positive impact on the world and fight for justice and equity and inclusion and fairness and social justice. And now I'm focusing a lot more on doing that. I still have a job. I still have my full-time job because you still have to live, but I'm giving myself that grace and I'm putting that effort in. What survivorship means to me personally is not giving up. I don't like saying that my resilience is a flex, because a lot of the time, or mostly, my resilience comes as a trauma response. And it's not just from cancer, it's from my life and things that have happened in my life. But I think being able to put one foot in front of the other every day is what survivorship means to me, because it can be so easy to let yourself not do that. And it could be that you go through the motions still, you go through treatment, you go through this, you go through that, but you're kind of on this autopilot and you're living your life in a way that does not make you feel fulfilled. So for me, survivorship is finding a way to be an active participant in your life. And it doesn't have to look like you have founded a nonprofit, or you are raising a lot of money, or you are doing all of this advocacy work. I do a lot of advocacy work because, again, going back to that whole, I'm about social justice and this and that, like that just is a natural thing for me to have wanted to do. But there are people I know and my wonderful survivorship friends who I know who don't do any of that, but they're still very active participants in their own life. And they are making the changes that they need to make for themselves. And they are doing the things they need to do for themselves to make sure that they are happy and they feel fulfilled, and that they are living their life in a way that at the end of the day, they could go, yes, this is what I want for myself. And they're not putting undue pressure on themselves. They're not trying to be something they're not. They're not performing survivorship for other people. I would say, honestly, I did that for the first 5 years, is I performed survivorship. I performed in posts on social media and like, hey, this is me and look at me. I'm toughing it out. And some days are really hard. And it's not to say that any of that isn't true, right? Like I'm still tough and I tough things out. But what I really needed to do in that 5 years, and I'm doing it now, is focus on healing myself, not using that healing to some way impact other people, or to some way like present myself as this epitome of resilience. And I felt like as a survivor at the beginning that that's what I needed to do. I needed to take what I was experiencing, all the pain, and turn it into the story that people can take for inspiration and use it. All I needed to do, what I really need to do, was like sit down with all the feelings I were feeling and all the fears and anxieties, and actually heal from them, and put that into my creativity, and put that into my art, and put that into myself, and put that into other types of advocacy that weren't very public or in your face. For me, again, survivorship really is about being an active participant in your life in a way that makes you feel good and it makes you feel fulfilled. And it's not doing something to make someone else happy, or because you feel you need to present yourself, or you want to fulfill that cancer warrior archetype, or you think that you need to. What word would I use to describe your experience of surviving cancer and why? I feel like I don't know if everyone will say traumatic, but that is the word I would say. It's very traumatic. And it's not just traumatic because you hear the diagnosis and you go through the treatment and then you live your life, but it's in those quiet moments when you sit down, and this happens to me a lot. It's in those quiet moments when you sit down and it hits you. I'm a double cancer survivor. For some, it's just, I'm a cancer survivor, right? But it's like, I survived cancer twice, and I don't know what my body's doing to me. Late last year, I learned that I had a precancerous colon polyp, and I am at an intermediate risk of developing a third primary. And I do not have any genetic predisposition to cancer. I don't have anything else in my family history to suggest that I would. And yet, if I did not catch that colon polyp, I likely would have colon cancer in a few years. And that would be 3 cancers. And just thinking about that in and of itself is traumatic, because as much as you could go past, and it's wonderful when people are decades into survivorship, but I think even then you still have this thing in the back of your mind, like, what is my body doing to me? And there's that part of you that wants to go to the doctor every day to make sure your body isn't doing something to you that is going to put your life at risk. And it goes, like I said, way beyond just the experience, the physical experience of itself. It's all those quiet little moments when it hits you that you've survived cancer, or that you're going through cancer, or that cancer still lives in your body and you have no absolute control over it.
Hi, I'm Terry Tucker from Denver, Colorado. I am a 13-year acral litiginous melanoma survivor. In 2012, I had a callus break open on the bottom of my foot. I had that excised. I was found to have this very rare form of cancer. And at the time, I was told that I would most likely be dead in 2 years. And I thought, well, you gave me a death sentence. Maybe I can try to turn that death sentence into a life sentence. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last 13 years. One of the biggest challenges I've had to overcome is finding meaning in the misery, finding a message in what I was going through in this misery, because I don't believe we suffer in vain. There's something we're supposed to either understand about ourselves, something we're supposed to learn about ourselves during this journey. So it was finding that misery, and also, in all honesty, embracing the suck. I don't like having cancer. I've never enjoyed this, but I've had to embrace the difficulty in my life and find a way to use it, find a way to turn it around into something that is more positive, more beneficial. And a lot of that has to do with not focusing on, woe is me, this hurts, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling depressed. It's more, what can I offer? It's not what I can get, it's what I can give with my unique gifts and talents and the disease that I'm facing. I've spent most of my life doing physical things. I was a college athlete, I was a police officer, I was on the SWAT team, and now I'm in a wheelchair having lost my leg due to this disease. And I think when you can't do what you're good at, you do what's important in life. And one of the biggest things for me right now is developing these deep connections with people, not just staying on the surface, but looking at people and saying, look, hey, you look like you're having a bad day. Is everything okay? Or is there any way I can assist you or help you or support you in what you're going through? So I've tried to turn this from woe is me to what can I offer other people to make their lives better based on what I've come to know and understand during this 13-year journey. Survivorship, 2 words keep coming to my mind. One is love, and the other is resilience. And I know we're talking about cancer. How can you talk about love? But I've become so much more giving in my life since having cancer than I was before I had this disease. And I really think you don't know yourself in your life until you've been tested by some kind of adversity. It doesn't have to be cancer, but I think certainly for me, it has been cancer. And love is something that is really kind of sprung forth from a disease that is usually associated with hopelessness and helplessness. So love is one thing. And then the other thing is resilience. And don't get me wrong, I have bad days. I feel down. I feel sorry for myself. I cry. But that's a choice. It's a choice to stay in that, or it's a choice to say, no, I'm going to keep moving forward. And one of the greatest quotes that I've ever heard is from a book called Farewell to Arms. It was written by Ernest Hemingway. And there's a line in that book that I absolutely love. And I think it really goes to what we're talking about. And it's this: life breaks everyone, and afterward, many are stronger at the broken places. So as I've been going through this disease, I've learned that I am so much more than this disease. I am not cancer. I'm a person who has cancer. Cancer doesn't define me. And that's a choice that you have also. Does this disease define you, or can you use this disease to find something good and positive in your life? Treatment allows me to see people in a different way. I look much deeper at people now. I was being treated last week. I was on the elevator in the parking garage, and a younger man, much younger man than I, got on, very down, very depressed looking. He had a backpack, he had a bedroll. And I looked at him and I said, "You don't look like you're having a good day." And he said, "I wish I didn't have cancer." And I looked at him and I said, "I wish I didn't have cancer either, but you need to find meaning in your misery." So going to treatment, being actively treated for this disease, allows me to be around other people that in many cases are scared to death. It's their first treatment. They don't know what to expect. They don't know where they are. They don't know if it's going to be a good outcome. They don't know if they're going to have bad side effects. There's all kinds of unknowns for them. And just to be able to wheel over to them in my wheelchair and look at them and say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Terry. I've been coming here for 5 years now. These are the best nurses, the best care you're going to get. Don't worry. Everything is going to be okay." And that's just a person who gets seen. Somebody sees me. I'm not just a number. I'm not just another person in this waiting room waiting to be treated. Another human being sees me. And that connection is so important to me. And I get to do that when I go to treatment.
Hi, I'm Zoraida Morales, and I am a 13-year cancer survivor of chronic myeloid leukemia. And I took chemo for 13 years. And I never thought that healing myself mentally, physically, and spiritually would get me to move from a finance professional to a certified cancer coach and to a certified nutrition coach, but that's what happened. And so for me, it was all about living with intention, because it's not just about making it through cancer, it's about choosing joy, healing from the inside out, and living my life by design, not default. It was about reclaiming my power and creating a life that honors who I've become. But I got to tell you, it didn't start out that way, because when I got that cancer diagnosis, I was not happy. If anything, I remember saying to the oncologist, "Are you sure you have the right chart in front of you? Am I the right patient? Because this cannot be happening to me." But here's what happened. After I made that mindset shift, and it took me a few years, but after I made that mindset shift that, hey, I've got cancer. Well, how do I want to live? What am I hungry for? What do I need that I don't have, and how do I get it? That's when the transformation started to happen, because cancer reshaped every part of me, but it forced me to slow down, to reevaluate my life, to rise with a deeper purpose, living fully as a mom and as a woman. And so it forced me to confront generational trauma, limiting beliefs, facing fears, and tapping into a strength that I personally didn't think I had. It changed everything. It changed how I see everything. And now that experience of guiding others into the healing and thriving is what I'm living for. So there were lots of challenges that came with that. And one of the biggest challenges for me was quieting my own mind and ego. So when my mind and ego were saying, "You should do this, you should do that," pushing me to do more, I had to quiet it down. But I had to learn how to do that, because at the same time, my heart just wanted to just rest and just be. And so with a lot of work, and I'm still working through it, I overcame it by slowing down, listening to my body, and leaning into that rest, which was a powerful part of my healing. Working through those generational wounds and facing fears and letting go of those limiting beliefs, those were the blessings that came out of my cancer diagnosis. Getting to walk alongside others as they understand what is happening to their mind, their body, their spirit. When you're struggling with cancer, you've got to look within. It's easy to look at the external and say, "Why me? Why not someone else?" And it takes a really long time to finally reframe and say, this is happening for me. There are lessons here, so many lessons. So for me, who's been on survivorship for 3 years, after taking chemo for so many years, I can honestly say this has been a gift, because I would have never shifted my mindset. I would have never been the person that I am now if I wouldn't have gotten this diagnosis. Because this diagnosis actually helped me realize that I wasn't living in alignment. I was happy, or I thought I was happy. I had the home that I had built just for me, the cars, the vacations, the husband, the children. But what was more important was living by design here in the heart, becoming the person I wanted to be while serving my community. So living on the other side is scary as hell. You're not prepared for it. But if you ask yourself the question, how do I want to live? It becomes easier, and just know that you're on the right track. It's kind of hard to talk about this even now. Can't help but have all those feelings come floating back. One word that I would use to describe my experience as a cancer survivor is transformation, because the cancer reshaped every part of me. It's how I live my life now. I'm living my life by design, not default. I'm living it with compassion, with empathy, with a new set of lenses that I never had before. I see the world differently.
Thank you for listening to this very special episode of Navigating Cancer Together, National Cancer Survivor Month. What's at the heart of survivorship? Hearing these 8 unique voices, each sharing their personal definition and word for survivorship, is truly a powerful and moving experience. It reminds us that while the journey is different for everyone, there is a shared thread of grit, resilience, and a deep appreciation for life that connects the survivor community. My sincere and deepest gratitude goes out to each of the incredible survivors who bravely and generously share their challenges, blessings, lessons, and the very heart of their survivorship with us today. Thank you for your vulnerability and the heartfelt wisdom you've shared. If this episode resonated with you, if you found hope, or a new understanding of what survivorship means, please consider sharing it with someone who has recently been diagnosed, are currently undergoing treatment, a fellow survivor, a caregiver, a friend, or family member who might benefit from hearing these stories. Your sharing helps these vital conversations reach more people who need them. We are also excited about the upcoming Navigating Cancer Together Community Forum, a space for deeper connection and support. It's not quite ready yet, but you can join the wait list and be among the first to know when it launches by visiting ontheotherSide.life/forum-waitlist. Complete the short form and confirm you are not a robot, and then you are on the list. That's it. You can support Navigating Cancer Together as an independent podcast dedicated to offering support and community to those affected by cancer by visiting our Buy Me a Coffee page or exploring our merchandise. Every contribution, no matter the size, helps us continue producing these important conversations and providing this platform. You can find links to all of that, plus more resources and ways to connect in the show notes for this episode. Please remember to subscribe to Navigating Cancer Together on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss future episodes dedicated to exploring the cancer journey and fostering connection. Also consider leaving a review. It is a simple and yet powerful way to help other listeners find the show and this community. Specifically, you can leave a rating and write a review on Apple Podcast, and you can also leave a rating and participate in a poll for this episode on Spotify. Thank you again for joining us on this journey. However you are navigating cancer, remember you are not alone. Keep finding and holding on to hope, and keep supporting each other. Until next time, let's keep navigating cancer together. Take care.